Hello. Welcome back. Welcome and welcome back. Hello. Hi, Labrador. How are you? I hope your day is going well. Were you here for my last live? I just ended a really interesting live. I was reading the introductory chapters to the book of Genesis, transparent translation from Dr. James Tabor. I found it fascinating. Beautiful day here in New Zealand. Ah, I wish I were still in New Zealand. I lived there for almost a full year. I had such a great time. It far exceeded my expectations. Hey, here. All right. Hello
Yo,
there. How are you?
I'm good. Man, I don't know if you saw the end of my live yesterday. You missed a doozy.
I saw a few minutes of it, but I just didn't have much time. How'd it go? What happens?
Well, apparently I met the second witness from the book of Revelations.
You did. Oh, do tell.
Yes. And again, I'm trying not to bash the guy. But it's just I'm still honestly still trying to process what happened. I mean, because he came on and he insisted I said you got 10 minutes before I got to go pick up my kids. And then he went off. Not mad off, just like
Oh yeah, I know. Like,
the
all right,
the
we're gonna pull the pin on this grenade and see where it goes.
I mean, it was like a Tom Clancy novel come to life or something. He apparently his identity is sealed and can only be confirmed by him and the president.
Do you ever post your lives on YouTube or anywhere else like that?
I just downloaded that one. I will probably end up doing that. I am still very new to this whole process. I only hit the 1,000 last week, but I'm having fun with it. But oh my gosh, it was yeah. And then he told me he's got he because I talked about the amount of evidence I would need to believe again, and he's like he has apparently all this documented proof.
Wow.
So much so that he has to like provide it himself because no news source of any kind, Fox, CNN, anybody will post it for national security reasons.
Okay.
But he specifically said he is the second witness from some one of the I can't remember Revelations 11 or something. I don't remember where it is, but
You
it
know,
was
I
it was
I'm
fun.
so sorry.
Hey
it's
Charles.
yeah. Chelsea's back.
Oh my gosh, it was. I had
I'm
never. I'm
so
going.
sorry.
Yeah. Were you there, Charles? Did you happen to see the guy?
No, and I'm kind of glad, but I'm so sorry.
I won't lie though, it was fun.
No, that sounds awful.
No,
Crazy
no, because
hurts.
I, I'm I am just touched enough in the head to like want an adventure like that. Because he at the end he offered to pay my way to Montana
No,
to see the stuff himself, and I'm like, I've seen Hostel, I've seen Saw.
no.
I'm gonna, but at the same time, there's a little bit of me is like that would be a cool story. Um,
You could just go to Ken Ham's The Creationist Museum and probably get a similar experience.
my
I
my
promise it's
yeah
crazy as
my
shit.
family's been there.
It's
That's
got to be just as crazy.
I don't know. I mean, he was pretty. I mean, he's apparently been interviewed by the FBI 7 or 8
Oh my god.
times. He has a website. I would not
That he
encourage
does.
that has a lot of this documented on a. He was
Yeah.
insistent on making sure we knew it was a not like he wasn't asking for money. A
He said, "Was
Google
it the Muffin
page.
Man?"
Yeah, I should have asked that. Yeah, I asked him. I was like, you got to understand. This sounds very much like a Tom Clancy novel. So you have to understand from our perspective, this is really far fetched. So yeah, how I ended up on dialysis. Yeah, that would be my book. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, where'd my kidney go?
Well, see, here's the thing, and I've told this to Skeptic before. My mom had a shaman that worked for her, and she was like my mom's bookkeeper, and then like afterwards we found out she was a shaman, and her and her, before he was her husband, went to like California, made their way down to Mexico, had their back teeth and molars removed for spiritual purposes, and
Okay.
this is also the same person that after my grandmother died was just like, I've spoken with her, she's in heaven, and I'm like, oh, okay, thank you.
I mean, I'll say I've had it. I have met with a shaman and tried ayahuasca.
That this is a
And
different kind of
yeah,
shaman.
and it is an experience, and you see things, but I also recognize that is a, chemical reaction.
Yeah,
It
I'm
was a
thinking this
wonderful
is more of
experience.
a running around in the woods in
Yeah,
your
that.
birthday
Mhm.
suit under the moonlight situation. Yeah, I don't like to think about it a lot because I like met both of them clothed. So
No, mine was definitely a much better experience, I'm sure.
Now it's fun to laugh and point fingers from time to time, but let's also recognize that people who make these kinds of claims are suffering with some pretty
Right.
traumatic forms of delusion.
And that was my point.
And
I didn't want to bash him.
right, and
But but the,
we
but
need
the story
yeah.
is a little bit like I need help processing this.
well, and here's the thing: is that we have to find places to go to find the correct place to talk to.
Right.
Like we have to direct them in the proper direction. Like who we like maybe you should talk to this person without being like, hey, by the way, we think you're a little, bananas.
Yeah.
Like what's the nicest way to say that?
Well, I
I
think
No,
he
think
was
I'm
so far
asking. That's an
convinced.
actual question, guys.
No, I with somebody with the way he was talking, I genuinely he is so convinced. Um, I mean, I believe with therapy that the main part is you have to be willing to, otherwise it's not helpful at all. Um, and
yep.
he's so convinced in what he's doing, and maybe he has something that has convinced. Maybe he has some sort of evidence that has convinced him of whatever this belief is, and maybe he has talked to FBI, whatever. But maybe their conclusions are actually different than what he thinks he's come to. But yeah, I don't know how to even begin with that level. I mean, that is out of my pay grade.
Right.
Have you ever talked to someone who believes the earth is truly flat?
I had someone in my comments, um,
No, no, no.
but I have
Spoken
not
to.
spoken. No, I try to stray away from that because I don't know that
I
I
don't
have the patience for it.
oh, I genuinely don't. Um I have a very good friend who I grew up with who is very, very hard set in this belief, and we just can't talk about it. And everybody kind of makes jokes and laughs at her behind her back, and but she genuinely believes this.
Yeah. Oh, and I got to address Brian in the chat. Do not knock Santa.
Oh, definitely real.
I'm going to get a certified certificate saying I met Santa in November. So yeah, I'll prove Santa's real.
Okay, but not until after November.
Well, that's because I have to fly to Finland for that.
Ah.
Okay.
They have Santa's village is there, and
Oh, got it.
you get an official signed certificate that you met Santa.
That's
So
amazing.
on a very serious note, one of the learning curves that you will experience, and you're already experiencing it, putting yourself out there in public on TikTok, and basically inviting anyone to share these kind of stories, you're
Right.
going to discover some people are not. Say the elevator doesn't go all the way to the top floor, right? We're not playing with a full deck of cards here. And it's hard to tell them that. It's not our place to tell them that. But
Right.
sometimes it can be. We have the opportunity to illustrate why we see their behavior, what they're expressing, as I don't know, not neurotypical, not based in reality.
Right.
And that leads us to this interesting crossroads that we have to face. Do we just say, okay, thanks for sharing, I'm leaving the conversation here? Or do we take a harder path, a more tricky to navigate path, and say something like, here's how I think you should address getting help with these delusions?
Well,
And I have a reference that I would like to share with everyone. There's an organization called the Recovering from Religion. It's a legitimate organization that Daryl Ray is one of the founders of it, and he has been on the AXP, the Atheist Experience program, among others, many, many times. And they have I actually sent an email to them sharing some interest in becoming a trained person to help people with their religious anxiety as they're leaving their religion. And they have some resources that might be beneficial to us as TikTok atheists who come into contact with these people that because I'm not equipped right now. I'm not equipped to psychoanalyze everyone, right? I am not a psychologist. I'm not trained in this way at all. So it's not really my place to say, you sound like you're an undiagnosed schizophrenic, right? That's not the right thing to do. But
I've
there,
cracked a textbook, okay? Like, I've cracked a textbook, I've flipped through the pages, not certified, don't feel comfy, not a doctor.
well, and
Like,
that's where. Oh, go ahead.
but I flipped through the pages. So, like, but once, like, you can recognize, like what Brian said, the elevator doesn't go to the top, but there's no nice way to say it, like, without learning the nice ways to say it. Like, there are comfortable that don't cause them distress or you distress or anyone else in the chat that's going to be like, you're aggressive.
Right. For me, it was a matter of something like that isn't going to be unraveled in a TikTok live. We know this. Nothing's going to be
Oh, goodness,
solved
no.
in one interaction. But for me, it's attempt to like to plant the seed. So my approach with him was, I made sure that he understood that I wasn't dismissing his experience and whatever evidence he had. I'm sure he has something that has convinced him of whatever it is. And but then plant the seed that, hey, step back for just a second and understand how outlandish it sounds to the rest of us. And he did he took a second to at least be like, yeah, I can kind of get that. And so, that obviously I'm not solving anything in that one time, but maybe, at minimum, if y'all seen some of my stuff, I'm trying to get people to just approach communication in a different way. Because obviously me saying, well, no, you're an insane lunatic and need to be committed, that's immediately going to shut him off.
right.
And such.
Yeah, like I've said time and time again, the real audience is the audience, right? It's even though we may be having a conflict between our ideologies, not you and me, but
Right.
you and this other person that has a radically different set of belief systems. Having the conversation and demonstrating how to apply skepticism or rationality or careful thinking, critical thinking, is valuable to the audience to recognize the difference between the approach. Well, my approach is I just have faith. Not helpful. My approach is I'm going to practice skepticism and shape my belief system in accordance with reality as accurately as possible. Could I be wrong? Of course, we can all be wrong. And the moment you hear someone say that I am 100% certain and I cannot be wrong, you cannot change my mind, that's not helpful, is it?
It's not helpful, no.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's been tricky, but it's been. Thankfully, I've had more positive than negative. Honestly, most of the negative has come in the comment section of some of the videos. Once they get on the live, so far I've had everybody. Even that guy was respectful. He's just kind of outlandish, but yeah, so far, if I can get him into a discussion, we can at least find some sort of common ground and whatnot. But Yeah, but I do understand that there's just nothing you can do.
Yeah, and don't let it get you down. I know it will.
I'm
It
good.
it gets me down sometimes. I had to take a break from TikTok. It was just too much, too much. But
I mean, I've
take a
gotten,
breath,
yeah, I've
regroup.
gotten to the
I'm
point
really
where,
interested to hear that. I hope you post that video on
well,
YouTube and
yeah,
send
I'll
me a
try to
link.
get it up at some point. But yeah, no, I just, I have finally gotten to a place which is where, for the longest time didn't have my community, and when you leave the church and stuff, and thinking that I was alone in this sort of deconstruction, to find you guys and others on here, it's helpful and has also given the confidence to be able to talk about it. So I appreciate that for you guys, because I know I watch you guys for a while too. But yeah, thankfully I am able to be in a place to just kind of have empathy that whatever they're going through is on them, and hopefully it's not bad, and that's fine. If they want to believe what they want to believe, I can't change it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. It's it's a it's an interesting time to be alive, isn't it? We have all these tools at our disposal, and we're still fighting over these ancient religious traditions where we could be spending our time and resources in a much more, what's the word I'm looking for? Non-destructive way, right? We could be building the technology to save the people that are trapped under these buildings that fall over because of the earthquakes.
Right.
Instead, we're squabbling over resources because my God is more important than your God. And it's just, I wish we could graduate from that. I really do.
It's tough. Yeah. But I appreciate it. I am gonna have to run grab my kids from school. You guys take care of yourselves, and I will let you know when I finally get that posted. I got to find some time for it, but yeah, thank you guys. Good to see you, Chels.
See ya.
Have a good day. Come back
Have a good one.
anytime, my friend.
Appreciate it.
Ain't nobody smart enough to figure it all out. Yeah, well, that's why we're all in it, right? Trust me, we got our best people working on it, but you can be part of the solution too. Science actually points more towards the Bible than anything else. Can you join us? No, I'm sorry, not enough followers yet, Patrick, but please, gain the followers. Everyone, follow Patrick so that he could join us in this discussion and maybe open my eyes to his claim that science points more towards the validity of the Bible than anything else. I doubt it. Evidence that science points to the Bible. Well, so the scientific method, it's a methodology, right? It says, here's a claim, let's try to disprove it. All attempts to disprove the claim have failed, therefore we elevate this hypothesis to the state of a scientific theory. Is it useful? Maybe. Is it predictable? I should hope so. Is it novel? Can it make novel predictions? Like, these are the things that are important to science. Is it able to survive the scrutiny of peer review? Now, we can examine the Bible, for example. We can look at some of the claims in the Bible. For example, was Noah 600 years old when he built the ark to survive the global flood, to save two of all of God's, life-breathing creations? The evidence doesn't suggest that. In fact, the evidence counteracts that. We have zero evidence of humans living over, say, 130 years, let alone 600. The Bible claims Noah died at 900 years old. Is that a scientific claim? Is that a hypothesis? Let's examine that. Can you show me the evidence that humans lived over 600 years old and then built a boat and then saved the earth the life from the flood? And then we can look at the evidence. We can look at the evidence of dendrochronology, the life cycle of trees. We can count the rings. 13,900 years of an unbroken chain of dendrochronological data of tree ring existence going back 13,900 years. No global flood detected. We can look at the geological strata. We can look at the different layers of dirt and the different fossils that are in the different layers of dirt, and we should see a global flood. Zero evidence of a global flood. We can look at ice core samples, for example. Hundreds of thousands of years of unbroken ice core samples. Zero global flood evidence. So, if you want me to believe that the claims in the Bible are scientifically accurate and true, then you got to do more than just make the claim. You got to demonstrate the claim. They are not. Yeah, well. Dog, yes. Dogs are lovely, I admit. Some dogs are better than others. Just like some gods are better than others, I suppose. But the gods I like the most are the ones that exist. How do we demonstrate a god exists?
I like the ones that have like the animal heads. I'm into those. Those are kind of cool.
Hi everyone. Welcome to the live. I hate asking this, but please tap the screen. More likes equals more eyeballs. And I have a few hours today to spend with you on TikTok Live, so please tap that screen. And come on up. The guest box is open. I can just talk all day if you want to listen to my raspy voice.
Whoa.
But if you want to have a conversation, I would love to.
To be clear, earlier someone said that they want to make your voice an audible book voice.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
I say this to you all the time.
Yeah, but I don't listen to you all the time.
Second. Okay. First of all, wow. And then they were like, oh my gosh, yes, he would be the greatest for books. And I was like, yeah, I know, right? It would be great.
End quote.
End quote. You're such an ass.
Okay, I want to bring everyone in to that inside joke.
No!
Several weeks ago, Chelsea was watching a political speech. I won't even mention who it was, but the person misspoke several times. They would read the end of the teleprompter and then say end quote. And he did it like 5 or 6 times. And I was reading, not this book, but another book, and and I would purposefully say end quote at the end of every sentence. And that's the origin, the genesis, if you will, of that inside joke. I've actually thought about reading books for a little side hustle because I do enjoy it. I think I'm getting better and better at it. And yeah, it's fun. Harry Potter.
Someone said I had a very unique voice.
Yeah.
I sound like hell. Yeah. Which is exactly what I'm learning about.
Where are all the talking snakes? Yeah, where are the burning bushes? How many people have lived inside of a great fish for 3 days with no breathing apparatus? Host believes we evolved from fish into philosophers. Well, kind of. Not directly. There's a lot of steps in between going from a vertebrate fish. We're all vertebrates, right? We all have vertebrae. Everything that has a vertebrae is related. Everything. I can point to some things that don't have vertebrae. Octopus do not have vertebrae. Cockroaches do not have vertebrae. These are invertebrates. But everything that has a vertebrae or a spine, everything that does is related. So yes, we do get to philosophy from fish. It just takes a very long time. Yeah, the fact people think the Great Flood is hilarious. So it's true that local floods happen. We have localized floods happening right now today. Anywhere in the world, you can pretty much take any day of the week that ends in a Y, and there's a flood going on, right? This is just part of the existence of living on a planet that's always changing. And when the ancient scriptures say our entire world flooded, well, yes, their entire world was localized, right? Their entire world was at what is now the bottom of the Dead Sea or the Caspian Sea. And then the tectonic plates shifted, or an earthquake happened, or the sea levels rose because of melting glaciers, whatever the case may be, and all of a sudden, what was not the ocean then becomes the ocean, right? Or the sea, or a Great Lake. When localized floods happen, we know that happens. But when the Bible claims that the entire world, the entire globe was flooded, well, now we have a claim that we can examine. And when we examine the evidence, we don't find any. Zero evidence of an entire global flood approximately 4,500 years ago. Because if you believe the flood story to be accurate, then the timing also has to be accurate. So, if we can conclude that the global flood was approximately 4,500 years ago, we can examine that claim. You're making a claim that can be disproven, and we have disproved that claim. Christ is Lord. So Christ is the Son. There's no evidence of a global flood. There's another interesting claim that the Earth is around 6,000 years old. That's what Scripture would lead us to believe, right? These are fundamentalist ideas. These are ideas that are not based in reality. And we can examine that claim and compare it to the rate of radioactive decay in unstable isotopes. So this is how we determine the age of a lot of things. Because the rate of decay of certain radioactive isotopes is very linear, it's very constant. We can take a piece of what's the stuff that they use in atomic clocks? I can't remember the name of the isotope right now. But the reason they use this isotope in atomic clocks is because it has a very consistent rate of decay. So, if we can actually calculate how much heat is generated from this decay and stretch the amount of time it has taken to get to the level of decay that it is now, looking at the 8 point something billion years that the Earth actually is, I don't remember the numbers, let's just say it's 8 billion years old. The Earth has been around for 8 billion, which means the radioactive isotopes have been decaying since they were, I don't like using the word created because that implies a creator, but the radioactive isotopes came into existence through the death of a star. A star exploded, and then all of that stuff kind of congealed into the rock that we live on today. And that rock contains lots of radioactive isotopes. And because we know the rate of decay is very uniform, it's not changing, the rate of decay does not change, we can measure how old things are by this rate of decay. Now, if the Earth is 6,000 years old, we have to shrink the amount of time that these isotopes have been decaying, which radically increases the amount of heat they generate because they have to decay within this radically shorter amount of time. People have done the math. You can look it up yourself. People have done the math, and it turns out there would be something like 150 atomic boom booms exploding per square mile around the entire surface of the Earth. That's the amount of heat generated by the accelerated decay of these radioactive isotopes. This is what's known as the heat problem for the young Earth creationist model. Now, This has been debated amongst young Earth creationists for a very long time. And all of the serious ones, the serious young Earth creationists that have actually wrapped their mind around this concept, they all admit they have no solution. I don't know how to solve this problem. The heat problem is the Achilles heel in the young Earth creationist ideology. There's no way to solve for the heats generated by that accelerated radioactive isotope decay. So if you can prove that claim wrong, then please write a paper about it, have it peer-reviewed, and then I'll consider a young Earth creationist model to be anything other than fantastical thinking. Can I ask you something? Sure.
I just said the same thing. I said, go ahead.
Peer review is not reliable. Well, let's think about that for a minute. If I have a claim that there's a fire-breathing dragon in my garage and that it's invisible and it's all-powerful and it exists inside and outside of space and time, don't you think we should have people reviewing that claim? Are you just going to take that claim at face value? I would hope not. In fact, I would hope nobody takes those claims on face value. That's the importance of peer review. Now, have peer review processes gone wrong in the past? Sure. People make mistakes. But the solution to bad science is not wishful thinking. It's not the Bible. It's not the Quran. The solution to bad science is better science. We have to improve the peer review process. We can make it better. We know that we can make it better because we have made it better. The printing press wasn't even a thing in existence until 1,440 years after Christ, right? And the review process is not dependent entirely on the printing press, but the printing press is the tool that has allowed us to examine these claims in more and more detail through more and more eyes, reviewing, right? Reviewing the claims and testing the claims in accordance with reality. So, is it a perfect thing? No, nothing's perfect. There's no such thing as perfection, except for God, one might say. But it's a better system to understand the natural way things are, right? It's the best and most effective tool or process that we have to come to the conclusions about the natural universe that we have so far. Nobody cares about your opinion.
But lots of people believe in magic.
DNA prices, we are related to sponges. I hope that's a mistypo. A mistype.
I mean, technically, yes.
Let people believe in magic. So here's the problem with bad thinking. Okay? In a society where we vote on things, what you believe informs how you vote. Your beliefs dictate how you vote. And if you believe that that Jesus is going to come back and none of this really matters, we don't need to take care of our planet. We just have to believe in Jesus, and then when he comes again, you're going to rise up into heaven. Your free will be stripped away so that you can praise God, Lord Almighty, for the rest of eternity. Then you are not a responsible voter. You are using these bad thinkings, these bad ideas, to inform the way you vote because you're not grounded in reality. Reality dictates that we are responsible for our actions. Our behavior and actions on this planet have radically changed the environment. We are experiencing droughts, tornadoes, hurricanes, tsunamis, things that have always happened, but they are happening at an accelerated rate with more intensity because of human activity, because of human intervention on the natural world around us. We have to conclude that our beliefs are important because what we believe informs how we vote. How we vote dictates what kind of policies will allow or stop certain actions that have a consequence for the rest of us. So, as a thinking individual, I think it's my responsibility to help show you why your bad ideas hurt people. They get people hurt. Your bad ideas are bad for everyone. Like, what's the great saying? MLK wonderfully said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Well, that applies to here too. If your bad ideas are informing the way you vote that hurts people, then it's my job as a thinking rational person to point out your flaws to you in the hope that you can change your behavior and the way you vote in accordance with reality. We have a guest. Arkansas for life. All right, come on up.
All right.
You're very loud. Hi, how are you?
I'm very loud.
Yeah, that's a little better. Thanks.
Okay. No, I was just going to say, so like, forget the God or Jesus and all that, but so you believe voting's important. I mean, like, so you believe in humanity, the voting and all that, right?
It's more than just voting, but voting, yeah, because we live in a society that uses voting as a means to dictate policy, right? We vote for our electorate who then dictate policy that then dictates how corporations can spew their toxins into my air, right? So yes, voting is part of the thing, but it's more than just voting. It's how we interact with reality.
But I mean, so what will happen? I mean, how does that matter for you? In your lifespan, let's just say there's no God, you die, that's it. How does that matter for you?
Because there are people making laws based on their beliefs.
And I'm thinking about the future too. I don't have kids, but I know of lots and lots of people that do have kids. And I want those children to experience the richness and joy and benefits of being alive. And if we're just poisoning the earth for their children or their children's children to suffer and go into non-existence, right? If you want the human species to go extinct, then we just have to continue on the path that we're on. We are on a path to extinction. But if you want the future generations to appreciate life, to have the opportunity to be alive, then what we do now dictates what happens in the future.
But religion doesn't teach. I mean, the religion teaches to take care of the earth.
It isn't though. Unfortunately, it's having people go. It's having people go against their best interest at this point. There are religions that are having people vote against their best interest, and which is causing critical harm to the planet.
I mean, people do weird stuff with religion. I mean, there's you have Christianity, but you have 500 versions of Christianity, right?
At least.
Or more, at more, right? So I mean, you know what? People are just flawed. I mean, that's just how that is. But I mean, I think like even Christianity and other religions, I mean, they teach us to take care of this planet, and it's for humanity, I think, and I think religion's a good thing. I don't think it's a bad thing. But I mean, people are flawed. I think it's more with people and how they.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, people are crappy. Not all of them, but I mean, you can take something good and make it horrible.
Do you ever watch sci-fi like Star Trek or The Orville?
I have watched. I mean, in the past, it's been a long time ago.
Yeah. So I like to say all I want to do is get to Star Trek, and what I mean by that is I want to exist in a world, or I should put it this way: I want our great-great-grandchildren to exist in a world more like Star Trek, where we're not separated by these fake boundaries that we put between countries. We are a species, a unified species that has achieved a level of technology that allows us to not just leave the earth and explore, but to flourish here on earth as well. And we can't do that unless we take care of this earth in a radically better way. Right now, we are being distracted by the rich and powerful, the bourgeoisie, the economic royalists, the billionaires, the plutocrats, right? And they're using religion as a political tool, as they always have. This is nothing new, right? Religion, in my opinion, is a political tool. And it can be used for good, and it can also be used for bad. And we have to recognize that the fight is not amongst ourselves, but it's a class war. We have to remove the powers, the lever of powers that a few people have over the rest of us, so that we can, as a species, survive and thrive, and maybe one day explore the cosmos. But instead, we're stuck squabbling over whether or not my religion is more important than your religion. I just want to get past that. I want to show people the absurdity of these beliefs so that we can unify as a species and not look at each other differently because your skin color is different from mine, your eye color is different from mine, my education is different. I want everyone to have the same opportunity. And that's going to take a fundamental radical shift in our zeitgeist, our behavior, our understanding of everything, right? Can you imagine for a minute what it would be like to live in a world without money, for example? Let's think about a post-money society. Well, how are you going to get fed, clothed, sheltered, access to clean water? Where does your dish detergent come from? Where does your laundry soap come from? These are all the necessities that we could provide everybody. Forget it, money. Money doesn't exist anymore. Your necessities are met. Your responsibilities are to be a good citizen, a good actor, as productive as you can be. Not for the sake of making money, but for the sake of promoting the benefit of the species. And not just us, all the species in the ecosystems around us. We cannot survive without the bees. We cannot survive without lions and tigers and bears, oh my, because they are part of the ecosystem. The problem is we pretend to control nature. We have this arrogance, this id in us that we can control nature. But we have to realize that we are part of it. We exist within nature. We have to get along with everything. It's a balance, right? And if we upset that balance, then we're in this kind of struggle that we're in now.
Yeah.
When a certain,
but like, is that achievable though? Like, I don't like that's ideal, like, I mean, that's great, if that all, but I just don't think that's achievable. I don't,
time will tell, won't it?
I guess so.
Yeah.
But I mean, if everybody just strives to do better, I mean, if we all just try to do better.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was
I
nice
would be
talking
okay
to
with
you.
that.
Yeah.
I would be okay with everybody just trying to do better.
Me too.
Be nicer towards everyone.
Yeah. Come back again, okay? I've got another guest. I want you to think about this and come up with some solutions. Hop on back in, and maybe we can talk about ways to get to a money that's past, a society that's past money, a post-money society.
All right. Well, it was nice to meet you. Good talk.
Yeah. Likewise. Be well, my friend.
Be well.
Angel Investor 70. You're up next. Hello.
How's it going?
Good. How are you today?
All right.
What's on your mind?
I think my main problem with when it comes to things like atheism and agnosticism is the total lack of humility. It's just the total lack of humility on you guys' part. The arrogance. I mean, we live in a universe that's 13.8 billion years old. That's 93 billion light years across. You know, it's 6 trillion miles in one light year. So that's 6 trillion, 93 billion miles. And then most scientists say we part of a small part of infinity. But you, on this third rock from the sun, on this blue planet, where we don't have the technology to even lead a planet to go back to Mars, to Mars or to Europa or to Titan or to the moon in over 50 years. You have this knowledge that nobody else has. That you talk about God or talk about spirituality and talk about life after death. Earlier you mentioned science. What and you start talking about, well, there's not enough evidence. What evidence are you looking at from science? And what researchers are saying, okay, I discovered gravity waves. These gravity waves, this science speaks against God's existence. I discovered cosmic microwave background. This speaks to the existence of God. Exactly what evidence do you have where you just all knowing, all smart, being stuck on this little planet that you know exactly what's not out there in all infinity?
I
That you
think he's
know exactly
confused
what's
by
not
the
out
No,
there.
definition.
I know, Chelsea. I want to give him a minute to really paint a picture so that we can dive into it. I've got a lot of
I
questions
mean,
for you.
I'm just asking you. Where,
Yeah.
you seem to know it all. If you know it all, give me the evidence. I want to search it out myself. What is
Yeah,
the
well, that's
evidence
fine.
that makes you all knowing on this little
Well,
third rock from the sun?
have I ever expressed the claim that I am all knowing?
Well, if think about what you say. You speaking about God. You speaking about in ways like, it's evidence. There's not enough evidence that he exists. Well, if there's not enough, either you're lying or you have the evidence. You have to, in order to make a claim that there's not enough evidence that God exists, then this means you looked at some evidence. So if you
Well,
looked at some evidence, I'm just asking you, what is this evidence that you use from science that tells you there's not enough evidence that God exists? What evidence?
so let me ask you this question. How do you define atheism? What's your definition of atheism?
Well, it's you define it. You the atheist.
Yeah,
You don't
sure.
want to.
I can. Yeah.
You're the atheist. You said, hold up. You said first. You said you're the atheist, and
Are you still there? Where'd he go? Oh no, he disappeared.
hello.
Oh, there
Yeah,
he
Yeah,
is.
you're back. Yeah.
I'm here. I'm here.
Okay. Great. So let me put it this
You're the
if
atheist, and you was talking about science, and it's you lack a belief in God. You said there's not enough evidence for
Yep.
you. That's your claim. There's not
Yep.
enough evidence. You talking about how science this and
Okay.
science that. There's
Let
not
me
enough
let
evidence for you to make. I'm
do
asking
you
you,
do
what
do you
evidence are you talking about?
all right, I'm gonna ask you a series of questions to demonstrate what I mean by a lack of evidence. Okay. I just want to run over the terms really quick. I claim to be I identify as a agnostic atheist. Gnosticism has to do with knowledge. I do not have knowledge that God does or does not exist. Therefore, I am agnostic. I am without knowledge. A
Okay, well,
theist,
what knowledge are you using? I'm asking. That's
right?
what I'm asking you. It's a
So
simple
knowledge,
question. What knowledge
knowledge.
are you using to draw that conclusion?
Hold
When
on,
I
hold on.
when I have evidence for something,
Uh huh.
I'm going to use a real simple example. This is an antique style clothespin. I
Hmm.
have evidence that this clothespin exists because I can measure it, I can interact with it, I can show it off, right? Here's a picture of this antique clothespin. I have knowledge that it
Hmm.
exists. Would you agree with that statement?
Yes, I'll agree with that.
Okay. Okay, great. So a theist is somebody that
Hmm.
answers in the positive, in the affirmative, when they are asked, do you believe that God exists, or gods, multiple gods? So a Hindu is a polytheist. They believe in multiple gods. A Muslim is a monotheist. They believe in one God. Do you identify yourself as a theist, as a believer in God?
Yeah, of course I believe in God. That's why I'm on here. I believe
Okay.
in God.
Do you believe in Zeus, the god Zeus?
No, I believe in the God that you talk about 95% of the time, which is the Bible. I just
That's
seen you on here
true.
on several times on here, and all you talk. It's amazing when I listen to you atheists. You always 95% of the time you're talking about the Bible. You're talking about Jesus.
Yep.
You're
Yep.
talking about the God. I never hear you atheists talking
Hold
about
on.
Hinduism.
No,
Hold
it's
I
okay.
on.
never hear you
Hold on.
guys talking
So
about
close.
deism. You always talking about God or the Bible. That's all you talk about. That's the
I
God
talk
I believe in. The
I
one you
talk
talk
about
about 95% of the time.
but today, I mean, I assume you weren't here for my live earlier. I just stopped a live earlier where I was talking briefly about the Epic of Gilgamesh, Siddhartha. Have you ever read the Epic of Gilgamesh, or the story of Siddhartha, the first Buddha, the
Yeah, I
person
heard
that
of him.
achieved enlightenment? Right. Okay. So there's another example of what some people would consider a god. I just brought up
Hmm.
Zeus. There's another god. There's part of the pantheon from the Greek, right? So
Hmm.
my question to you is this: what evidence would you need to believe that Zeus exists? That's my question. What is the evidence that you would need to be convinced that Zeus is in fact God?
Well, there's no evidence 'cause I believe the Bible is the word of God. Don't you know what a Christian believes the Bible is the word of God? So there's no evidence. So that's a silly question. But my question is to you. Again, you dodged it. You avoided my question. You
No,
was
he's
up here
not.
talking about you
No.
was up here talking about science, and you was up here talking about there's not enough evidence to conclude God exists. If there's not enough evidence to conclude God exists, you have to be looking at some evidence. And I'm
So
asking you
close.
again,
So
what
I know.
close.
I
evidence
know.
are you looking at to conclude? What? Show me the paper where it said, for instance, they discovered the Higgs boson. At the end of the paper, somebody discovered Higgs boson and say, well, this is evidence that God doesn't exist.
I can ride the duplex
What
if you want.
evidence are you
No,
looking at?
I want to let him paint as colorful a picture as he can, so that we can get down to the important
It
question.
ain't
Again,
no.
I'm
What you mean,
I
colorful picture? Again, the lack of humility from atheists is just astounding. That you don't realize that you are a three-dimensional being stuck in one on a blue on this planet where we have limited technology, a limited evidence of our limited understanding of nature reality, and yet somehow you have figured out that God doesn't exist.
Someone
That
but
just said, oh, wow.
I'm not
you
but
have
I'm
figured,
not make
there go the cop out excuse. Now you're not looking out at any evidence. Well,
no.
how do you
No, wait.
know? Hold on,
Hang on a
how do you
sec.
know? Hold on,
All right.
how
Hold
do you
on.
Time
know
out.
there's no
Deep
God doesn't
breaths.
exist? There's
Time
no
out.
life after death, and there's no
Time out.
spiritual realm.
I am not making I want to be really, really clear.
Of course you are.
I am not making the argument that there are no gods.
Of
That
course
is
you
a
hold it, hold it.
different claim. That
When
is a
you say
different
there's a
claim
lack of
from being an
evidence,
atheist.
hold up. When you say there's a lack of evidence that God exists, you are making a claim. You making a claim that
That
you
there's a
looked at
lack
evidence.
of
Hold up. You
evidence.
making a
So
claim that you looked at evidence and it wasn't enough for you to conclude that God exists. That's your
so what
claim.
evidence?
So so
What's your
I'm
best
asking you
evidence?
for the fourth time, what evidence are you talking about?
That right, that's what we're getting at here. What is the evidence that I can examine to convince me that God exists? What
Why
do you
I
think
gotta
is the
you
best
the one to
example?
making the claim. Why I gotta convince you? You said
All
you
right,
have the evidence. You
Angel,
said you
Angel.
have the evidence. Hold up. You made a
Deep breath,
claim.
my man, because
Hold up.
you're missing something here, friend.
No, you make
You are,
listen,
my friend. You
listen.
are.
If you make the claim that there's not
No,
enough
sweetie, you're
evidence,
making a
hold up.
claim.
If you make the claim that there's not enough evidence that God exists, then obviously you must have looked at some evidence that drove you to that conclusion. All
Right.
I'm
So,
asking
what
is,
evidence did you
all
have?
I'm asking you is, what was the evidence you looked at that drew you to that conclusion.
So
That's
what
like
evidence
me.
did you
That's
have?
that's exactly why I asked you what evidence would you need to see to believe that Zeus is God.
I told you I'm a Christian. I believe in the Bible.
I know
There's
you
no
are.
evidence.
I know
I
you do.
answered that question. There's no
You
evidence.
didn't.
Now, would you answer my question?
But how do you demonstrate that there's no
Because you
evidence
made the
for the
claim.
existence of Zeus?
Because
What
I
evidence
believe in
have
the
you
word.
looked at?
I tell you how I demonstrated. One is that the Bible, so far, when you look at the Bible, it
Oh, the
actually
Bible.
matches
Which
it,
Bible?
it, the
Which version?
the Bible. The king.
I
Look, the Bible's been translated into 3,500 different languages, and you know what? It's converting people all over the world somehow. So all those versions that reach
okay.
that convert people.
Right, but which
For
one?
instance, I have a friend who's was a violent criminal growing up. He was
I know where I really
No,
don't
I'm
need
asking
more.
you if he
I
came, if
really
he's a pastor now. He changed his life.
That's
If
adorable.
okay,
That's
Okay,
if he
hey,
adorable.
came on
I
this live,
don't need
we're
anecdotal
hold
evidence.
up.
I was
If
like,
he
we're
came,
genuinely trying to
hold
work
up.
on facts,
Let me
not
ask you a
feelings here,
question.
honey.
If he came on this live, would you tell him to stop believing in God?
We don't tell anyone to stop believing
Hold up,
ever.
I'm asking you a question. Well, then believing in God is a good thing. Then,
I'm
or you not had the courage of your convictions. If he came on this live, and he came on this live, and he said, would you tell him
The same thing we're telling you
Hold up,
now.
I'm asking you. Let me ask you the question.
the same
Like that,
thing. Yeah.
would you tell him to stop believing in God?
When have I ever told someone directly
Of
you
course
should
you
not
are. That's
believe
why
in
you're
God?
allowed. You talking? That's
I
No,
called
we
say
don't
talking
ever
examine
about
the
tell
stop
evidence.
believing in
anyone.
God.
I say
Just
there's
because.
I make the
Hold
claim
up.
that there's no
Hold
evidence.
on.
All
Yes,
you
I
Hold on.
do
admit
is
I make the
hold
I
up.
claim.
know what's happening here.
All you
He's
do on your
questioning
live,
his beliefs. He doesn't really
hold up.
believe.
All you do on your
He
live
must
is
be
mock
questioning.
God
He
and
doesn't
talk
really
about
believe
God.
in God.
So
I
why
don't want to go
wouldn't
down
you
that route.
hold up? Why wouldn't you tell my friend if you have a courage in your convictions or you just lying? One of the two. If my
Okay,
friend came on this live,
I'm
why
going to give
wouldn't
you
you
one more
tell him to
chance.
stop believing in the God that you mock every day?
I Angel, Angel, I need you to take a breath and we're going to have a conversation. If you want to just yell over me, I'm going to boot you. You can come back another time, but I want to have a conversation and not a yelling
We
match.
are having a
This
conversation. I'm talking to you.
No,
You're not
friend.
answering no
I
questions.
I appreciate that.
Mhm.
So let's slow it down. Let's just dial it down. We're at like a 9.5. Let's just dial it down to a 5. Okay. My question still stands, and I really want you to think about the importance of the question. I know that you don't believe that there is any evidence for the existence of Zeus. So my question is, what evidence would you need to examine in order to raise your confidence level that Zeus is God? What is the type of evidence you would
I
need?
answered your question. There's no evidence because I believe that the Bible is the Word of God, and the Bible says things about science that no other religion says. For instance, the Bible tells us that the universe is held together by the Word of God and by the
I
word of
know
His
the
Father.
Bible makes a
Yeah,
lot of claims.
the Bible tells us that the word Jesus said, "I am not of this
Right, I know,
world."
but we're trying
Hold
really
up,
hard not to
you
preach here
asked
and
me a
try to have a
question. Can I
conversation.
please
I did.
answer? Can I
No, I
please
did.
answer? I
I know,
answer.
but
You
we're
I'm
breaking
asking you a
up.
question. The Bible tells us about the universe. Everything we see from science tells us that our third dimension is being held together. Scientists are starting to say space and time is
What
Angel, hang
freezing,
on.
and
what
space and
exactly
You're
is
time
the
is
third
breaking.
dimension?
Hold up.
so,
You asked me a question. Would you please let me respond?
I'm interrupting because you're building a straw man.
What
What
straw
you're
man? You
Let me
asked me.
explain. Let me explain. I asked you what is the evidence for you to
And I'm
believe in
telling you.
Zeus, and you immediately say, this is what you say, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is what
Hmm.
I hear. This is
Hmm.
what I hear. You say there is no evidence for Zeus because the Bible. And then you build this straw man about all the claims that the Bible claims are true
Yeah,
without providing any evidence.
yeah.
So I need you to recognize the Bible is not evidence.
Yes, it is evidence. I just told you about all these. Hold up. I'm
If
telling you. Hold up. I'm telling you about what the Bible shows about science
I,
that's
I know
accurate.
I know what the
I'm
Bible
telling you about what
claims.
science. Hold up. what science
My
shows.
dear,
I
you
hold up.
are acting as if he hasn't read the Bible.
I told you. Hold up. I told you about my friend who
He told
you
you about
won't
his
even admit, you
friends.
won't even have the courage of your convictions to say that you would tell him to stop believing in God, even though you my God every day.
You
Bruh.
all right?
So
Let's go to the courtroom now. We're going to go to the courtroom, and I am claiming that God does not exist. Right? What evidence would you need to bring into the courtroom to show me, as the prosecutor, saying this God does not exist? And you have evidence. So, what is the best evidence that you can bring as the defendant to my claim to prove to me, to demonstrate to the court that God does in fact exist? What's the best bit of evidence?
the best bit of evidence is what I started out with. Is that
The Bible?
no
Is that really your
one?
evidence?
Yeah, of course, the Bible, the evidence. Number two,
Okay, the Bible claims
hold up.
the
Number two is what I talked about again when I first came on with your actual lack of humility. There's just no scientific evidence out there that speaks to the existence of God. None. And you can't provide me a shred of evidence. You was up here earlier talking about science. You was talking about how science this and science that. You can't provide a shred of evidence that where science points to the existence of God. In fact, science can't even prove its own theories. There's no such thing as scientific proof. Science can't even prove its own theories. So how are you going to sit up here and
how
talk about science, this and
how are
scientists? Hold up, Gage, you
how are we communicating right now? Do you have a cell phone in your hands? Do you think
sci-
prayer built that cell phone?
hold up, science, hold up. You don't know that science can't prove itself?
Are you holding a cell phone in your hand right now?
Do you know that science can't prove itself?
That's a nonsensical question. The question is usefulness, utility. Is science useful? I ask you, how are we communicating right now? We are using 21st century technology that is not developed through prayer. We don't pray these cell phones into existence. The cameras, the microphones, the screens, everything that you're holding in your hand or looking at right now to communicate is evidence that scientific investigation is useful. We wouldn't have the cell phone if it weren't for science.
Scientific proof is a myth. It's it's a complete lie. While they provide very strong evidence for their theories, they aren't proof. In fact, when it comes to science, proving anything is
Yeah.
impossible. Let's go to what Einstein said. The
But I'm the ignorant. I'm the arrogant one. Yeah. How dare I? How dare I? My arrogance is just clouding my better judgment, I guess, or something like that. Okay. Let me run through the question again. First, we have to recognize that books are not evidence. The only thing a book proves is the existence of that book. I can pick up, oh, I don't have any good, yeah, here's a good fiction book. Just gonna grab this. Oh, I can't pick it up right now. I was gonna show you a picture of, or one of my copies of The Witcher. I have the book series, The Witcher. Why? I think it's fun. It's fun to read. I'm a big fan of the video games, and the show is okay. I really enjoy the literary work. It's really good. The book doesn't prove anything, right? It's a fantasy book. It's clearly in the genre of fantasy. The only thing the book demonstrates to be true is the existence of the book itself. I can hold up a book and say, look, this thing exists, right? The things written, the concepts written inside the book are all claims. Even physics books. I can show you my physics book. Look, this is one of my college course physics books. That book does not contain proof of anything. It contains claims. Claims which are demonstrated through the usefulness of the application of those claims or methodology. It talks about mathematics, all kinds of mathematics. It talks about algebra, trigonometry, differential equations, right? So those are the tools that we use to demonstrate whether or not the claims are based in reality or not. The claims in the Witcher series are not claiming to be truth statements about the world, about the universe that we exist in. But the Bible is. The Bible is claiming all kinds of things that have been demonstrated to be false. Did Jonah live in the whale for 3 days? Do you literally believe that claim to be true? If you do, I don't know how to help you. The Bible claims that Noah was 600 years old when he built the ark for the global flood that there's zero evidence for. Do you believe that claim to be true? There's no evidence that it's true. So you have to recognize the difference between a claim and evidence. I can have evidence for something's existence, right? We have all kinds of evidence that characters in the Bible existed. We can talk about the pharaohs and the kings and the cities and the paths and the Jewish lineage. We can demonstrate a lot of those claims are true through third-party evidence, right? But when you start making claims of a supernatural nature, like the original sin, what is sin? Heaven and hell, where are they? What are they? How do you demonstrate these things to be true? Well, now we're talking about supernatural claims that cannot and have not been demonstrated, at least to my burden of proof. I have a certain threshold for BS. I'll accept a little bit every once in a while, but don't put it in my salad, right? I'm not going to eat a salad that has some BS in it. So, when I ask you, what evidence would you need to believe in Zeus? Well, you're right when you say that there is no evidence. I agree. There is no evidence. Just like Yahweh.
Hello.
Hey, Nick. Hi, how are you today? What's on your mind?
I'm good. How are you? I just wanted
Yeah, I'm
to
good.
first
Really
say
good.
I don't think that guy was articulating it very well, but I think he was trying to assert that science is that I mean, obviously it's changing on top of each other, but science can disprove, science of the past.
Yeah.
Anyways, I wanted to ask you if God is a supernatural being existing outside of time and space. Why are you trying to ask people to prove that he's real if you can acknowledge that there's absolutely no way to prove something that exists outside of the dimension or whatever you want to call it that we live in?
It's a great opportunity to talk about skepticism and critical thinking. It's really, I could choose anything. I could talk about politics and examine the different claims between the political parties and base that in reality, right? Well, does Social Security help people or not? Let's look at the facts. Let's look at the numbers. But I'm not so well versed in politics as I am in religion. So really,
Okay.
the conversation about religion is a meta conversation about rational thinking and skepticism.
Okay. So, I see it says you're an atheist, so you firmly believe that we exist at random?
I wouldn't use the word random. No,
Yeah, I wouldn't
I
either.
I believe that we are a product of a long line of evolutionary adaptations throughout the millions of years of our existence. You know, like I said earlier, we're vertebrates. We share vertebrae. We share a spine with all the other vertebrates, which is evidence that we have a shared history with all of the things up until the very first vertebrate. There was a moment where there were no vertebrates on Earth. Everything else was plants or bacteria or insects, invertebrates, right? And then something happens, and all of a sudden we have vertebrae. And that evolved into all the different little species that also share vertebrae. And along that very long path, we end up as Homo sapiens.
I would I feel like I grew up Christian, Christian parents, Sunday school and stuff, but I have always found myself to be a very, I need to see something to know that it's real. And so I like have really been recently looking into all of this, and I recently found like what is the what is like the probability, because we can't see that we evolved from invertebrates, for example. Like we can't literally see this happening because it happens on such a grand scale, but we can assume. But they can do computer generated, and they can do self-generated probabilities for the likeliness of proteins evolving into what we are now today. And it's literally impossible. And I think they say anything that is anything that's over 10 to the 50th power is considered impossible. And the probability, for example, of our DNA, of a typical DNA strand evolving into what it is now from nothing, is like 10 to the 610th power.
I think
So-
this would be a better conversation to have with a evolutionary biologist, and there are a couple on TikTok, but my answer would be that we have a lot of evidence through fossil records and through our understanding of the DNA, the genome. We can literally see these changes in the genome. For example, we know that we share 98.8% of our genes with chimpanzees, but humans didn't evolve from chimpanzees. We
And,
evolved
like,
alongside,
96 with Anna.
parallel. And yet we can look at the gene difference in genes between any two chimpanzees picked at random with that aren't actually related. They're not siblings or something like that. And there's more diversity between chimpanzees than there is between the genomes between any two humans. We are a more insular group. We interbreed more than the chimpanzees, for example. I mean, the amount of detail that we have now in the understanding the genome is mind blowing. It's truly fascinating. And to say that we don't have the evidence isn't entirely accurate. We again, please speak to an evolutionary biologist about this.
I would say there's a lot of, I see what you're saying. I would say there's a lot of things that, like that's the conclusion, but when you actually break it down and you look at the very beginning before there was ever life, it's statistically impossible. And I think there's 10 to the 80th power impartial particles in the entire universe, for example. And I'm not just making this up. Anyone can go find it themselves. The probability of our existence at random, because you'd have to assume if we were not created by a creator, we would be living purposeless lives at random.
Well,
right?
I don't think we have a purpose in the sense that we have, people will claim, well, God made man for this purpose. I don't believe that we do. Our purpose is to procreate, right? It's the same purpose as all other life forms. It's to adapt to the environment to increase your chances of procreation and survival. And that's the only purpose.
What would you say about consciousness?
Consciousness is an emergent property of the brain. I have never seen anything that has consciousness that doesn't have a brain. And I like to separate the difference between consciousness and sentience. We see some plants and other things that are alive that do not have brain that will react to stimuli, like Venus flytrap. You can tickle its little jaws, and that will cause the Venus flytrap to close. That's a form of stimuli. That's a form of sentience in a way, but it's not writing poetry, right? It's not doing calculus or showing any kind of behavior in a social sense. We can look at all social creatures, all of them, all social creatures, birds. Frogs is a bad example. I don't think they're social creatures. Some of them are actually. No, there are some frogs that do like predator hunting in packs. It's some wild stuff. All social creatures share a lot of behavior. They share empathy. They share sharing. Right? If someone doesn't have enough to eat, they will give their foods to the other monkey or bear or whatever that's hungry. Right? And we see this among all social creatures. It's a really fascinating study. So knowing that we are firmly within social creatures, we build this sense of morals or laws or rules because we are social creatures. We just have an advanced form of communication. There's no other species that have communication skills like we do.
So our moral compass, if you will, is completely evolutionary.
Yes. That's what I believe. Yep. It's like
Okay.
you asked, where does consciousness come from?
It,
It's a product of being a social, sentient, thinking creature.
someone in the comments just said, "What is the probability of the Bible being true?" Well, the Bible actually. Sorry, I'm not trying to go on a tangent. I just think that's a good question.
It's okay.
There's a lot of missing parts. A lot of missing parts for me and questions that I have because, like if the Bible is truly the Word of God, it should be, why isn't the Book of Enoch, in the standard? That's one of my questions that I have. But I
Why
would
is
say one of the,
Revelation so wacky? Is one of my questions I have.
right. But I think one of the things that has helped me is knowing that there are historians and there are atheists who have studied this stuff, and then the Bible is not just a book. It's right. It's 66 books written by I think 40 plus authors and over many different lifetimes, and so I think it's foolish to not treat the Bible as a historical thing that we have, because it's like, how do we know that anything in history happened? Because people wrote it down. And so to not at least treat it like a historical artifact would be, just ignorant, in my opinion.
Yeah, the Bible as a whole is a collection of books that have been written with hundreds of years between the books, right? If we're looking at the book of Genesis, that's literally 1,400 years before the Gospel of Mark was written. Or yeah, it's like 1,480 so-ish years before the Gospel of Mark. And the Gospel of Mark, as we know, is the first gospel written. And there are a lot of claims in the Gospel of Mark, claims that have not been demonstrated to be true. How do we know that the claims in the Gospel of Mark are true? How do we know that Jesus was healing the lepers and the blind and the people without limbs? How do we demonstrate those claims to be true? We can't.
We cannot.
We cannot. So we have to examine the Gospel of Mark.
Pretty good message, though.
It's fine. It's a good message, but that doesn't mean that the claims are true.
If he can heal the disabled, then he would be able to heal our spirits as well.
Right. There's a great saying, you don't see faith healers in hospitals for the same reason that you don't see psychics winning the lottery.
But anyways, I have a lot of, I'm not very good at joining lives, but this is just something I'm very interested in. I am not doing very well at gathering my thoughts, but
it's a learned skill. Yeah, I take notes all the time. Make notes. Make lots of notes.
I feel like I would do a lot better if I actually wrote down yeah. But anyways, I just wanted to come on here and ask you some questions about things that I was concerned with. So
Yeah, right on. Hey, can I ask you a question? Have you
go.
have you read any other holy books? Have you ever read a holy book not from the Christian tradition or the Abrahamic tradition?
No, I have not.
Yeah, I think everyone should pick up a book in comparative religions, dive into the
Yep.
text yourself. I would recommend the Tao Te Ching. It's a really insightful book. The works of Confucius. A lot of good information in Taoism and Buddhism. I think it's useful, right? As long as you recognize that the whole concept of reincarnation is not proven, the caste system is a tragedy to humanity. Like there's a lot
Yeah.
of BS in those religions too, but there's a lot of wisdom.
Right.
So yeah, just
About the soul.
th- well, thanks for joining and asking your
Yep.
questions, and come back
Thank you.
anytime.
Wait, I do have one last question. What was the analogy you just used? I completely missed it, but I see people saying that it was really good in the comment
Oh,
section.
you don't see faith healers in hospitals for the same reason that you don't see psychics winning the lottery.
Okay, I don't think I really understand that, but
Have you ever seen like I love picking on Pentecostals because they're some of the most wacky, right? Have you ever seen pictures of Pentecostals all like placing their hands on someone that needs healing and they're speaking in tongues and they're jumping around and singing and crying and just going through this fits, right? That's what I picture a faith healer as. This person that's trying to channel the divine power of the Almighty and being like Jesus and placing their hands on the disabled and healing them through prayer, through faith. Well, we don't see those in hospitals, not in real hospitals, not hospitals that are serious, right? Because it has not been demonstrated to be useful. If it was demonstrated to be useful, then we would see more faith healers in hospitals. But if you go to the hospital, say you break an arm, tragically you fall off your bicycle trying to jump over a couple of school buses, and you miscalculate and you break your arm, and you go to the hospital and you ask the nurse or the staff for a faith healer, sometimes they will provide you with one, which is a very strange concept to me. But what they should do is look at you and say, "Oh, honey, we don't do that anymore."
yeah,
Right?
yeah, I would, and I know you're talking about physically healing. I would say that Jesus allegedly healing people that had physical disabilities was more of a metaphorical thing, anyways, and the gospel is not meant to be a tool used to heal broken arms.
Right. If it was taken metaphorically, fine, no problem at all. But the problem is, of course, we don't. Like I said, I was listening to someone's TikTok live yesterday, and they were a theist, and they said it out loud. They said the quiet part out loud. I take it literally until I'm forced to take it figuratively. And that's the problem. People want it to be true. They're emotionally invested in their religion because their
I
religion is
would say
their
that
life.
I do take it literally. I just meant that when you have figures in the Bible doing things, there's a like literal thing that they're doing, and then there's a purpose of what they're doing that they are displaying to others. That's what I meant by
Okay.
but that's we're kind of talking about the same thing but just a little different. But
Yeah.
well, thank you. Okay,
Thank
bye-bye.
you. Be well. That was very nice. All right, I'm getting a little tired of TikTok. I've been staring at the screen all day. So last call, if anyone wants to hop in the guest box, ask a question, share a thought, then please request now or forever hold your peace. or go bother someone else. No, I'm kidding. I really appreciate everyone and these conversations. I have a good time most of the time. One day I will. Is it because you need followers? Yeah, let's do it. Hey, 240 of us in here. Let's do a follower dump. Here's the criteria. If you are under 1,000 followers and you want more followers so that you can go live, please type only once. Type only once. Jeez, let's think of a word. Everyone follow Space Cat. Type Space Cat. Space Cats. Type it once, and then everyone else, please follow the Space Cats. Follow, follow, follow. That way we can bring more people into the conversations, because I like hearing your ideas. I like sharing these thoughts with everyone. So if you have over 1,000 followers, please don't, because I don't want the chat to get crowded. I want it to be simple. If you have fewer than 1,000 followers and you want 1,000 followers to join the conversations, type Space Cat only once, and please, everyone else, please take the time to follow, follow, follow. I remember how hard I struggled getting 1,000 followers, and I like to share this moment with people who are trying to join the conversation. So I appreciate you all. Yeah, type Space Cat. All right, welcome. I can't see your name. Welcome to the chat. What's on your mind?
So I'm actually more agnostic, and
Okay.
it's mostly because I am skeptical like you. But I have to ask, why are you like atheist and not more like an atheism thinking sort of mindset?
Well, a
Because I
theist
understand like
is...
how
Yep.
I see it. How I see it is how I see the world is I believe that there can be a greater, power out there. We just haven't gotten to that point to prove that. We don't have that ability. But the
Yeah,
current world as we live in it is just like it's I guess in a sense, atheist world because there is no proof of God. There just isn't.
right. I believe that the truth matters. I believe that we have the ability to arrive at the truth, the truth, if we're given the tools and the time and the understanding how to use the tools to examine the facts of reality. So I am a non-resistant non-believer. So if there is a God, if there are angels or hells or demons or anything like that, I will believe them if there's evidence. The time to believe in a claim is after there's evidence and not a moment before.
Oh, okay. Same. All
Yeah.
right. But as
For
far as
example,
demonstrating God,
so what evidence would you need to believe in Zeus? What would the evidence look like?
I mean, this is kind of like egotistical, but I think humans would be the closest thing that we can closely relate to God in a sense, and I think that's what we indirectly do through the Bible, which results in a sort of God complex, in my opinion, which is like what results from the Bible is just like you think you have it down because of what this book says, but if you're going to go at it through logical thinking and using like scientific theory and all this, countless work we put into this tool that we have, but negate certain aspects of it just so that you can get what you want out of that book is kind of delusional to me. Also, I kind of ranted. What was I saying?
No, that's fine. That reminds me of I can't remember who said this quote, but I think it was Christopher Hitchens. I might be wrong. Don't quote me. The Bible is people's favorite play toy. They can pick from it any cherry they want to chew on, right? You can use the Bible to support slavery or condone slavery, right? You can use it to be homophobic or love your neighbor, right? You can use the Bible any way you want. And that's part of the design. It's designed for that reason. It's designed so that preachers or people in power can say, this is why you have to follow me. Please be generous when the collection plate comes by. And if you do not follow my teachings, then you will suffer for all of eternity. Well, excuse me, but I'm not that gullible, right? And it's not that hard to break free from religion if you just add a little careful thought, right?
Yeah,
Examine
just
these
critical
claims
thinking.
carefully. Yeah. But of course, people are emotionally engaged in their religion. I say it all the time. Religion is people's lives. It's their friends and their neighbors and their work, their livelihood. And to question their religion is to question their place in the world, their value. And that's tragic to me. I think that's a tragedy.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't know. I'm not like for the Bible in any sense. I mean, if you use it as a moral concept to better yourself as a human, that's entirely fine. Like you can use whatever in place of doing that. Like in my opinion, you can use anything to do that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
um I mean, I don't know, like all this having it down as a definite, I just don't think we as a species are there yet. Realistically talking about like the reality we currently live in, which is what I think people get too deep or lost into thought and confuse philosophy with like theory or actual, actual things that are practiced. And they think they're practicing it through the means of religion because of what the book says, but they don't like have that understanding that the concept of the book is wrong in general.
Yeah. So I hope you follow along as I start reading James Tabor's translation of the Book of Genesis, and then compare that to the New English Standard Version and the King James Version, and we can kind of see some of these inconsistencies in very plain English.
Yeah, hopefully.
Well, thanks for your thoughts. Anything else before I move on? I've got a couple more guests ready.
No, that's it. I would love to see more, so I'll excuse myself.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, everyone, please send me a follow. I'm getting close to 10,000. I may have broken 8,000 today. And I follow everyone back. So if you follow me, it might take me a few hours, but I'll follow you back. And you can always DM me too if you have a question that you don't want to share with the class. As long as you're not being rude or a troll or annoying, then I'll respond to people's DMs. If and when I have time.
Hey.
Hello. What's on your minds today?
Oh, well, you're talking about the Bible and how
A
we
little
can.
bit.
All right, so it's a little bit about flat Earth too. So I've been seeing lately that a lot of people have been using phrases and information from the Bible to prove their flat Earth theories. The Bible says this
Interesting.
about the Earth, you know.
The four corners of the earth. Yeah, I've heard them.
And so, like you said, they're emotionally involved. So it's their emotions or their ideas are coming from the Bible. They think they understand what they've read, but they completely misinterpret what the Bible is actually telling them. I try to explain that. Um, but, like, oh, well, the earth is stationary. The Bible even says it does. Well, no, I've read parts of the Bible, not the whole Bible, but it does not say that. If you understand how they read and recorded history back then and how they recorded their own languages back then, their technology and their way of thinking were way different than how we go about things these days.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, they think the Bible is 100% fact. It's not. Nothing wrong with believing
So
in it.
so how do we get through to those people? How do we, kind of proverbial shake them by the shoulders and say, snap out of it? What do you think is the best methodology?
I've tried to provide evidence. That's what I try to do. But what more can you do? Some
Yeah.
people some people still have a chip on their shoulder. Some people are hard to break because they are so emotionally involved. But it's
Yep.
not about, making people believe something that they don't want to believe or, I'm not about that. You can believe what you want. But when you come to me and start telling me that, hey, you're wrong because my book says this, I'm going to have a little talk with you. But I'm not going to tell you not to believe it.
That's a tough one. More and more, I keep thinking that we should be more proactive in highlighting what's the best way to put this? When people are using bad thinking that informs their vote, it harms all of us. Bad ideas get people hurt. That's why we have to be intolerant, right? If we want to have a tolerant society, we have to draw a line somewhere. And we have to be intolerant to, for example, fascism. When fascism is on the rise, we have to be intolerant to an ideology that wants to systematically remove our freedoms, right? So if we use a similar thought pattern with religion, well, your general religious person is not going to be very harmful. But then you have this smaller group that is actively making life difficult for more people, right? So how do we address that as a problem within our society? Because we are social creatures, we have to exist together. We are sharing this world together. You do not have a different world from my world. We share the air, the water, everything, right? So when your belief systems are making life difficult for people, we have to criticize that. We have to examine those ideas and say, you are wrong. Your behavior is hurting people. We have to be more proactive in pointing these flaws in our epistemology out so that we can evolve from it, so that we can graduate from these bad ideas. And that's another reason why I like to spend this much time on TikTok talking about this stuff. TikToking about it.
I agree 100%.
Yeah. Anything else? Any final thoughts before I move on?
Not really.
Okay. Well, come back again sometime. I want to wrap up the live for the day, but I appreciate you. Thanks for sharing your thoughts, and let's do it again. I need to get out of this chair. I've been sitting for hours. Ugh. I brought in a guest, but they disappeared. Hello, is anybody out there? What's next? Will of the Wisp Live? Oh, yeah. I've been saving it just for you, Diver. I've got that one achievement left on Will of the Wisp, just for you. So, I've been trying to get TikTok Live Studio to work on my computer. And I just posted a video yesterday about this glitch that I'm stuck in the Matrix. Every time I request access, it's saying, I am granted access for 7 days. Go live? Yes, go live. And then it's like, you have to request for access to go live. And I hope that it's just a bug in the application that will be fixed with an update. But yeah, I don't want to just point my phone camera at the computer screen again because it's just, the resolution is terrible. I'm really hoping I can start showing some of my game experiences with the group. All right, Lorenzo, come on up.
Hey, Gone.
I can hear you now. How are you today? What's on your mind?
I'm good, mate. Just for the demonstration, I think the best that I could think of is just life and death, and referring to a scripture that I've recently become familiar with in Psalms 46:10, and I think that kind of demonstrates how you can come to know, from my understanding, how you can come to know God. But I mean, if you don't mind me asking, you don't have to give me an exact age. What age bracket would you be in?
I'm born in 1984, March 15 to be exact.
Okay, awesome.
So I'm gonna be 39 in a matter of weeks.
Oh, congratulations! If I don't hear from you again, happy birthday.
Well, thank you.
Early happy birthday. So to me, that's important. I noticed you said something about, people who read these you believe this kind of man-made scriptures, and we're gullible because people, all this fundamentalist stuff, with tithing and all that. I think to myself more, and you mentioned, like, they kind of categorized in the gullible or they fit that gullible category, based on their belief in scriptures and whatever their faith is. I just think there's nothing wrong with that, knowing that, I mean, for example, you're 39, you'd be lucky, and forgive me if I'm wrong, but the average person would be lucky to even make it to 100 years old. So I'd say you'd be lucky if you've even got another 50 years up your sleeve. So for me, I think it's important both how you live your life here, in the physical sense, so and how you spend that time in the physical sense, and then also I don't think there's anything wrong with exploring outside of that physical sense when our time has come, and during this time where we can explore and start accepting, I mean, if you believe that's it when your time is up, I mean, with all due respect, I feel if that's your ultimate belief and you don't believe in any of that, once again, with all due respect, why would you waste your time asking people to demonstrate if God exists?
It's a meta conversation, really. It's
Sure.
When I'm on TikTok having these conversations, I view it as a service in the benefit of promoting skepticism and critical thought,
Sure.
careful thought, right? The question about God doesn't so much matter as the introducing the process of skepticism to people. We could talk about anything. We could talk about
Sure.
football or your belief in karma, or we have to pick a topic, right? And because theology is so emotionally charged, people have an opinion on it. So it's a great tool. It's a great tool to use as a conversation piece to demonstrate how to accept, when we should accept claims, and the fallacy of accepting claims in the absence of evidence. When I like to talk about faith as a purely failed epistemology, and I can demonstrate why. And this
Sure.
is a meta-analysis of how we come to the belief. We don't choose our beliefs. We arrive at our beliefs through our understanding of the natural world around us. And when religions make it a point, when they make it a mission to indoctrinate children between the years of 4 and 14, that's when they get you, right? That's where the critical building, the structure of our brains happen. When we enter the age of reason is when the physical properties of our brains are wired. And if you are indoctrinated as a child, when your brain is wired to believe, to understand, to know that original sin, heaven and hell, God loves you, the devil is real, like these are claims without evidence to support them, but they are so fundamentally rooted in so many people because of the physical properties going on in young people's lives, and that has an effect on the rest of their life. And when people are unable to examine those beliefs critically, well, now we're talking with someone who's in a delusion. And it's not that they're incapable of escaping that delusion, but it becomes harder and harder to reach that person, to bring them into reality, to show them how their beliefs are not founded in reality, but instead wishful thinking or faith, purely failed epistemologies.
Sure. And I think I look at it like as, I mean, you're right in a sense, but I think there's a lot of people that are very intelligent, very smart. They've got, awesome backgrounds, and they live in a fantastic life, and they still practice. They still, practice their faith and their belief, and I don't see anything wrong with that. And they manage to do wonderful things in their life, but they've prepared themselves for the afterlife. So I honestly don't think there's anything wrong with that. They've lived fantastic lives. They've done a lot of fantastic things for people, and many people, more than you could imagine, probably more than you. No offense to yourself, but the people that are of strong faith have done more than you and I put together, and lived wonderful lives, and have prepared themselves for the afterlife spiritually. So I don't see
I,
anything wrong with that. I don't think they've wasted their life at all. They've lived happy lives, fantastic lives. They've done everything that they could possibly capable in their own capability to do, like service and help people and look after their family and look after many families. And there's so many examples out there. And, they've done more than what you and I could ever imagine of.
but
And they still
that
like that. It doesn't make them live any longer in the flesh. They just, it just that they know in that they're carrying, like a life jacket. They've prepared themselves when they've crossed over to, when it came to their time. Regardless of an atheist thinking nothing's going to happen, you just go back to dust. And if that was right, at least they've prepared themselves regardless each way and done and fulfilled the things that they've done 10 times more than you and I have.
have you ever seen the movie called The Invention of Lying with Ricky Gervais?
I haven't.
There's this really good part in it where someone's mother or grandmother, I can't remember exactly, they're on their deathbed and they're about to pass on.
Sure.
And everyone's in grief, right? Everyone's very emotional. And Ricky Gervais, as the person that invents lying, he comes up with this story. He said, "Oh, don't worry, we'll see you again in the afterlife." And everyone's like, "What?" And he's just making it
Mm-hmm.
up, right? Well, what do you
Sure.
mean we'll see her in the afterlife? Oh, well, yeah, you'll just move on, you cross over and into the afterlife, and those of us who are good, or we'll be able to meet up again.
Sure.
It's a comforting lie, right? It's literally in the
But
name of the movie. It's the invention of lying. So even though these lies are comforting to us, it doesn't have any bearing on whether or not these statements or claims are true. And that's what
yeah,
I want to get at. I want to get at the truth. If you have evidence for these claims, then I want to believe as many true things as possible. But if you have no evidence, if you just ask me to believe something because it makes someone feel good, that's not useful to me. I mean,
well,
it's
the, the only,
what's that awful saying that the truth doesn't care truth doesn't care about your feelings or something like that.
so I'll get to I feel that the evidence is in scripture and how you practice that scripture. Uh, I can only offer at this stage. I can only offer two scriptures. One is James 1:5-6. That's one scripture, James 1:5-6, and the other scripture is Psalms 46:10. If you read James 1:5-6 and put that together, and then read Psalms 46:10, uh, that's kind of giving you a demonstration how you can know God, and that's like you practice that little demonstration there that mentions in that scripture, uh, and that's something that cannot be done online. It has to be done in your own time because you're right now distracted. So that is a one of them, and what I mentioned earlier, that life and the passing. I mean, I just think,
I, I know, but I have to look at the Bible as a whole, right? And I can
sure,
examine the claims that are demonstrably false. And then if you expect me to look at Psalms, whatever, as a path to knowing God,
hmm
the Bible makes all these claims with very little evidence to support some of them, right? And if a person chooses to go down that path and they're convinced by these claims, that somehow there is enough evidence to warrant their belief, then again, we don't choose our beliefs. We arrive at our belief through the evidence given. And when our brains are sometimes physically wired to believe and reject all kinds of criticism, well, now we're working in the realm of a delusion. And if you have evidence, then I'm willing to examine it. Like I said, I'm a non-resistant believer, or non-believer.
Sure. Well,
I'm not non-resistant skeptic. But
no,
but anything in the Bible is going to be viewed as a claim to me. This is a claim. Here's another claim. Let's examine it in proportion with reality.
I feel like it's like if I told you to have a look behind the garage door, there'll be something there, but you won't open the garage door because you're already set in your mind that there's nothing there. Like, I mentioned 2 scriptures, and your claim is you don't feel that the Bible,
Okay, I got pen and paper ready.
Sure.
Please repeat yourself.
Okay.
What were the Bible verses specifically?
James 1:5-6. James chapter 1. James 1.
Yep.
Verses
Section
5 and
6. Yep.
Yep. The other one is Psalms 46:10.
46 verse 10. Okay.
Correct.
I will review and get back to you.
Sure. No, that's fine. And thank you for your time.
Yeah, be well. Hey, like I say,
Thank
we're all in this together, right? Let's figure this
We are.
out. We're a team. All right, be well, my friend.
Thank you. We are. You're awesome. Thanks, bud. I don't know how to exit. That's my poor.
On the bottom of the screen, multi-guest, click that, and then disconnect.
Okay. All right, done.
All right. The south side, I know you've been asking for a while. I'm getting tired. I really need to get off soon, but please share your thought. Let's try to keep it brief.
Hello. How are you?
Hi. I'm getting tired, but how are you? What's on your minds today?
I hear you. So I mean, I'm not here to try to show evidence of divinity, but just evidence of like common understanding. Okay, so just let's weigh the facts. This guy apparently around about 2,000 years ago walked and talked for about 3.5 years, right?
You
Did a
mean
bunch of crazy
30?
shit.
You mean 33 years?
No, my friend, he only walked and did miracles, signs, and wonders for 3.5. He started his ministry at 30.
Okay,
Right.
yeah, I got you now.
Okay.
Yep.
Right. So essentially, this guy just starts walking around doing crazy stuff for about 3.5 years. And virtually every culture, if you could write a book back then and you were writing books, he's in there. Right. And then, so let's skip beyond him. So this guy, something happened. A magic man was walking at one point in time, or else it was just the greatest fairy tale that everybody in the world told their kids, and it was the exact same story. So moving past that, we can start making correlations through the heroes in the Bible and the heroes that the entire world and every other culture seen as well. Just a couple off bat, Moses split the Red Sea, correct? And there was a bunch of people that seen that too. They in their culture they ended up calling this man Poseidon. There was another man, Isaiah. The Bible says he resurrected an army. And other cultures seen and translated this, and we hear of Hades, the god of the underworld. The prophet Elijah was said to have not tasted death, but he rode into the heavens on a chariot of fire. We hear about another guy like that, the Apollo, the god of the sun, who's frequently depicted as riding on a chariot of fire as well. I mean, we can go down to Jezebel, Aphrodite, even Samson and Hercules. So essentially, if you follow this line of truth, no matter what culture seen it, because they all have kind of different variations of what they've seen, and naturally because it passed through different cultures, you know. But that, I believe, needs to be examined and thoroughly understood. I mean, this is before floppy disks. You know, I
It's
mean,
before the
you know,
printing press, right?
yeah,
This
you
is
know what I
this is
mean?
a time when a lot of the texts were transcribed by illiterate people. Oh, well,
Exactly.
you want to earn your bread for the day? Here, I know that you can take this pen and copy all of these shapes. You have no
Right,
idea what the shapes mean, but here's
right.
how you can earn your bread for the day.
Exactly. You know, and essentially it's amazing because it was so important, like so significant that what they seen that they literally mass produced these things essentially, like you said, before the printing press, before a floppy disk, thumb drive, the internet. I mean, hell, we didn't have a mail system at that point. They just started writing it, and they began to tell the story and tell the story. So when you look at it through that lens, there is something happened that's undeniable. I mean, the fact that we even know about it today means that something significant happened. And I mean,
Do well,
every culture. I mean,
let's
even Chinese in their ancient scripts, they talk about this shit.
They right, cultures around the world talk about all kinds of things. Do you think that Hirohito was actually Lord Emperor? He was the ruler of Japan in the 30s and 40s, and the people of Japan thought he was literally Lord God, the Emperor
Right,
Hirohito.
and I
Right? Does it
understand
make
that,
it true? No,
but that's the
doesn't make
reason.
it true.
No, no, no. But that's the reason I made all those correlations, though, as well. Because, I mean, these same significant heroes are found in literally every culture. They might twist their story a little different because of their cultural things or whatever, but it's there, man. It's there, you know? And yeah, yeah. So I mean, not to try to get into anything like biblical and prove it through the Bible because I don't think that's going to do anything. You just look at it through a lens of perspective, like 3.5 years walking, talking, making bread out of nothing, floating on water, and we know about him today. Some shit
Right,
happened. Some shit went down, regardless
but you
of something
but
happened.
unless there's evidence to demonstrate that he was literally repairing missing limbs, literally curing diseases, there's a lot of claims. I admit, yeah, there's a
Yeah,
lot
I
of
hear you.
claims,
I hear
but
that.
there's no reason to believe any claim
Okay,
until there's
speaking
evidence
from a
to warrant the
scientific
belief.
perspective, let's examine the last 20 years of science and theory of creation, evolution, and such. Correct. So I'm 31. When I was growing up in science, they taught evolution and this and that and single cell organism and all of these things. Right now, science has kind of pivoted, and really, if you're not looking at it for what it is, it's hard to like neglect or deny some sort of intelligent design behind all of this. Correct. I mean, we've gotten to that point where it's like this is not a true. It's not an accident. It's a little too
Wait,
perfect. I mean, even
wait.
modern
Who?
science is
What?
moving to that.
What intelligent designer put the breathing tube right next to the swallowing tube? What intentional designer? What good intentional designer designs the prostate? Right?
Right. So now I'm not saying that
why do I need
he was
corrective
making mistakes.
lenses? Yeah.
No,
All right. Well,
I'm not saying he's perfect and without flaw, but yeah, you're right though. No, no, I hear it. Yeah. No, I'm not saying he's perfect and without flaw. I don't even think he knows the future, the end. Because if that was to be true, how can then he be righteous? But something there's something going on here. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm putting out. There's something in the
hey,
damn Kool-Aid.
well, please come back another time that I'm live and that I have more energy. I appreciate your thoughts.
Thanks for
Let's
having me,
continue this
man. I appreciate
conversation.
it.
All right. Good. All right.
Thanks for
Be
having
well.
me, man.
Yeah. Be
Have a
well.
good one.
All right, Chelsea. You're going to be my last guest for today's live, so the floor is yours.
No, I can't be nice right now. I genuinely can't. I'm trying real
Okay,
hard.
then away with you.
I'm trying so hard. All right, so hi everyone. Have a lovely day, and go touch the grass and get off TikTok. It's not worth it. Get off. Fluffy cloud, fluffy cloud, fluffy cloud.
All right,
All right,
we need.
bye.
It sounds like we need to talk.
No, dude, just fluffy cloud.
Just fluffy
Hi,
clouds, everyone.
fluffy
Everyone, just be
cloud.
a fluffy cloud.
Hi guys. No, I don't know. I don't know how you have so much patience, my dear. I just don't.
No,
I just
it's a
don't.
learned skill.
Yeah, I just not today. Not today, Satan.
Not today, Satan. All right.
Oh, goodbye, my
Uh,
friend.
I, yep, I'm going to wrap up the live, but thank you so much. Okay, this is it. I'm signing off. Thank you all for participating. Like she said, don't spend all day on TikTok or any social media for that matter. Get outside, go touch the grass, go hug your mom, try to be a good person. That's what we're here for, right? If there's any purpose to life, why are we here? It's to help facilitate a better future for our kids and their kids after them. And if we don't smarten up real soon, then I'm terrified that the human species won't survive for much longer. So it's up to us. It's up to you. Tag. You're it. All right. Be well. Talk later. Stay skeptical.